Good evening and welcome to the 25th edition of the webinar LIVRESQ Empower Your Teaching. My name is Raluca Bolocan. I'm a trainer and instructional designer at the company Ascendia, the company behind LIVRESQ. And we're here every Thursday, once every 2 weeks, actually, not every Thursday. So once every 2 weeks on Thursday at 6 p.m. CET to tell you about the news regarding our platform or to show you different functionalities. Recently, we've shortened these meetings a little bit so that they're more targeted. And my topic for tonight is really exciting. It's regarding quizzes, and it's about a new functionality that we've added to LIVRESQ, which I'm very excited to show you. So I will start sharing my screen in a second. If you're joining us live either on Zoom or on Facebook, you can ask questions. I can follow the chat, and I can see what you're typing. Or you can turn on your microphone and ask your question live. If you're watching a recording of this, thank you so much for watching. It's very nice that we've spiked your interest, and ask your questions in the comments and we'll get back to you as soon as possible, whether you're watching this on Facebook or on YouTube. All right. So without further ado, I'm going to show you what we mean by question pools and how to use it, how to use this feature. So I'm going to be working on an empty LIVRESQ project. I won't go into how to create a project or how to start using LIVRESQ projects. So we're in a blank project at the moment. There's virtually no content here, just a text box. And what I'm going to do is add a quiz so that we can find out how to add a question pool, how to create a question pool, first of all. So in order to add a quiz, I will go to the content on the left-hand side and drag and drop it inside my project, inside my section. I will double-click to edit the quiz. And now we've gone through this before, and there are recordings of me talking about quizzes. I will show you some more advanced features tonight, but first of all, how to use a question pool. So this is what a LIVRESQ quiz looks like in the editing mode, and we have the possibility to add multiple questions. So for instance, this is one question. It's a multiple choice type question. I'm going to deselect multiple answers so that I only have one correct answer. I'm not going to give you, so I'm just going to write something to show us that this is the first question. Option 1, option 2, and then we're going to add another option, which is option 3. You might have noticed that I duplicated one of my options. This is the easiest way to go about it. And because I unchecked multiple answers, this means that only one of my options is correct. And I get to select it by hand. So this is how I've selected my correct answer. Now, in order to make this a question pool, I need to have multiple questions inside my quiz. So what I need to do for that is to add another question. Or if I don't want to start doing it from scratch, if I don't want to start editing it from scratch, I can just duplicate this one and just change what I need to change. So this way we keep all of the settings for all of the questions. So we'll just leave it at second question, but let's say that this time the second option is correct. And in order to illustrate this as a pool of questions, as multiple questions, I'm also going to add a third question using the same method. So instead of using the button add a question, I'm going to duplicate one of the existing questions that I've already added. We'll call this third question. And for this, the correct option will be the third option, option number 3. So all of these have only one correct answer, and I've unchecked multiple answers. And then I have 3 different questions. Now, a question pool essentially means that I have a database of questions. So I've created a quiz with multiple questions, and only a fixed number of these questions will appear in the quiz that my learner has to solve. So for instance, this only works on assessment. We've covered the purpose of LIVRESQ quizzes before, and you might have seen it, or if not, you can go back and watch that video. There are 3 purposes: learning, assessment, and survey. So the question pool only works for assessment. And now, once you've selected assessment, you have this little configure button next to it. And here we have questions used. I can enter or select a number of questions that are used in my quiz. This will be randomized for the quiz, and it can be obviously a lower number than the number of questions that I've created. So for instance, if I only want my learner to have to answer 2 of these 3 questions, then I will enter number 2 here, which means that once my learner goes through the course and reaches this quiz, they will see 2 of these questions randomly selected from my pool of questions, because the pool of questions is essentially a quiz with multiple questions. So if I go into view mode using the eye icon here, I start with a 3rd question, and then I have the 1st question. And since I've only selected 2 questions, I told the platform to only use 2 of the questions, that's all I get. So you can do this with multiple types of quizzes. You can do this with multiple questions. This is very useful if you want to add, for instance, standardized tests and introduce them to and add them to an LMS, add them to an e-learning course. LIVRESQ is SCORM compliant, so you can have a pool of questions and you can have a threshold for passing. For instance, you have 100 questions and one test only includes 20. So this is a really, really useful option. Again, I'll just go through it very quickly. You add multiple questions, either using the button Add Question or duplicating and then editing your question starting that way. This works with all the types of quizzes that we have available in LIVRESQ, whether it's multiple choice, drag and drop, drop down, and so on. I've just added multiple choice for ease, but we'll explore more in a few seconds. So I have a pool of questions here, and then I select the purpose of my quiz as assessment, and I tell the platform how many of my questions I want it to show the learner. And then voila, we only see 2 of these questions. Right now, this was randomized to the 1st question and the 3rd question. So it all depends. Another feature regarding quizzes that I wanted to show you, and we haven't covered this before, but we did get this question from a few of our users, is how to change the text of the buttons. So this is the second thing that I want to quickly cover, as long as the whole question poll topic is okay, as long as you've understood everything and there are no questions. If there are questions later on, I can go back and answer them. If you're watching a recording of this, leave your questions below, wherever below is, whether on YouTube or Facebook, and we will get back to it. So having a number of questions and then telling the platform to randomly select not all of these questions, but a few of these questions, any number we want. Okay, so how to change the buttons, the text of the buttons, because again, according in relation to the purpose we select for the quiz, there are a few buttons that appear in LIVRESQ. So for instance, once we're in assessment, we have the verify button. But we can change the text of this button. If you don't want it to say verify, if you want it to say something else, you can change the text. If you don't want this text to appear like this, your answer is wrong, you can change this. If you don't want continue to say continue, you can also change that text. And for according to the purpose, there are different types of buttons. The way we can edit these buttons is under labels here. So if we click on the plus icon near labels, then we can edit the text of all these buttons. So verify can turn into check your answer. Or better yet, lock in your answer. Continue can turn into move on. Finish, I don't have a synonym for finish, but we can say end test. Press and hold to see the correct answer. This is an option we have when you've entered the wrong answer in assessment. So you can have the learner press and hold to see what the correct alternative would have been. I won't change this, but I can show you very fast. So for instance, if we select show solve button and I select a wrong answer. By the way, we've already changed the button, and you can see the result of changing the button here. It's lock in your answer. And then your answer is wrong, press and hold. And now when the learner is holding on this area, they can see the correct option. But this is up to you. It can just say your answer is wrong. It can say results or outcomes. Let's just say outcome. Try again. You can leave it as try again. Your answer is correct. Can turn into way to go. Your answer is wrong. And turn into not quite. So you can really personalize your messages according to the type of course you're having. You can insert little jokes, or maybe you want it to be more professional, or maybe the purpose of the questionnaire is different. The purpose of the quiz is different, and you need different types of buttons. And this is a really easy way to do this. So now we have move on, not quite, instead of your answer is wrong, a little bit more positive. And then again, I need to select an answer, lock in your answer. We have way to go, move on, and then the outcome. Or final score would have worked as well. Here, instead of icon, so outcome, final score. And there you go. So we always say that the main advantage of LIVRESQ is that you can customize everything, and I realized that I haven't shown how to customize buttons because they do change automatically once you change the language of the interface. So you can select multiple languages from the interface, and I'll show you how to do that in a second. But you can also select custom text for these buttons, and that's very easy to use. So again, when we're editing our questionnaire, when we're editing our quiz, under properties, low here, so it's the penultimate button, we have labels, and we can change all of the messages that appear in the quiz. To change the language of the buttons, if we haven't changed anything here, and you want to change the language of the buttons, so the language of the interface, which, by the way, on a project level also includes the name of these functions, so they will be automatically translated to the language you select. The way we change that is from preferences, content default language, and then if we change it to something else, maybe Spanish, then all of these buttons will be in Spanish. And if we haven't changed the quiz buttons specifically, the quiz buttons will also be in Spanish. Although I don't think it will work now because we don't have any quizzes in this little template. So it won't work at the moment because I've added different titles for the buttons. I've changed the text, but they would have automatically changed. So it's really up to the interface, but that interface can be further customized and you can change it. Also, you can change the title of each of the buttons in the bar above. We've talked about the properties of the project, and we've gone into more details about that. But if you want us to go over it again, we can in a future webinar. So question pool, we've covered that. We saw that once we have multiple questions here, and when we're in assessment, we can ask the platform to only use a certain number of these questions, which is really useful, especially for tests. And then another advantage of quizzes that I want to show you tonight is how to add images to different types of quizzes, because this is also something that is always requested, how to add icons, how to add images. And for that, I'm going to add another quiz. So I've added another row and then another quiz inside my cell. There we go. Double click to edit. And now instead of using a multiple choice, I'll use a drag and drop to show you this. The main important thing to understand about editing LIVRESQ quizzes is that the number between these brackets corresponds to one of the options here. And we can add as many options. And also, if you want more than one option to be possible in one of the spaces, you can use a comma and add the other option. I'll show you in a second. So for instance, and I think I've used the same example. Just one moment. So we have domestic animal. We can add images to any wild animal, to any part of the quiz. And what I mean by that is that wherever I have text, I have this text menu, this text editing menu that comes up, and this means that I can also add images. So if I wanted to add an image here in the main part of my quiz, in the definition part, I could have added it here. I can also add an image inside an option. So I'm just going to write a requirement quickly. Drag and drop the picture into the appropriate space. There we go. And now instead of writing an answer, we're going to add pictures of a wild animal and a domestic animal. So I'll say add image, and through stock photos, I'm going to search for a picture of a dog. I'm going to select a landscape one and a cute one. Let's go with a corgi. We'll use the medium image. I'll make it even smaller by configuring the image using the advanced configuration. And then here, I'm going to add another image of a wild animal. Again, I'm going to look through stock photos for a wolf. Let's select a wolf that looks really wild. Okay. And I'm also going to go into advanced configurations once I've selected this image and lower its resolution so that it's smaller and easier to drag and drop. So right now, if we go into the view mode, I haven't changed how the options appeared. I haven't changed any of the settings for the quiz, but right now my options that I can drag and drop are pictures. So I can drag and drop pictures in the appropriate space. In order to change how these options appear, I can go here under settings and place them maybe to the right, so it makes a little bit more sense. And then if I go into view, I can drag and drop like this. Now, I promised that I'd show you what happens if I have multiple correct options and that are interchangeable, because that's one of the main concerns. So for instance, if I have drag and drop the pictures into the appropriate spaces, and then I add another domestic animal, maybe we'll add a picture of a cat. Go into stock photos, search for a cat that looks really domestic. Again, under configuration, we're gonna put in 200 pixels so that there's the same, they're easy to use. And here, this is my third option. So the corgi would go here and the cat would go here. But since both of them are domestic animals, they should go in either place. And I can do that by adding multiple options for that particular space. So if I add 1,3 for both of these spaces that will be created because of the brackets, then once I go into view mode for the quiz, I can add my corgi to the second space and it would be considered correct, and the cat to the first space, and then the wolf I can add to the wild animal, obviously. But I can also go the other way around. Add the corgi to the first one, add the cat to the second one. So this allows me to designate multiple correct answers to one space. And again, in any type of quiz in LIVRESQ that you create, you can use images either in the options when you're writing the requirement or when you're writing the actual text of the quiz. Okay. Please let me know if there are any questions. Again, if you're watching a recording of this, write your questions down below in a comment and we'll get back to you. I hope everything was clear. I hope you find this new feature useful, and also the other two things that I've shown you, using pictures in quizzes and the fact that we can change the buttons for quizzes, so we can change this bit of the interface. Thank you so much for joining me. I will see you back here in 2 weeks' time. And I hope you have a wonderful autumn, or whatever season is where you live. Thank you so much.